I didn't find out.
You want, yes, Mike, for you. Yes, please. I'm gonna sit right there. All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
Do you want the other microphone for the bottom?
That's not the end of it. Everyone hear this okay? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Yes. This is a love song. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Rasika Tumane, Jaya Gopika, Jaya Gopika, Shri Radhe, Govinda Namo, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Shri Radhe, Govinda Namo, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Govinda Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Rasika Tumane, Jaya Gopi Jana, Jaya Gopi Jana, Shri Radhe, Govinda Namo, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Shri Radhe, Govinda Namo, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Govinda Gopala Mohana, Vande Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Rasika Tumane, Jaya Gopi Jana, Jaya Gopi Jana, Jaya Gopi Jana. How do we do on the offering?
Just blessings in this offering. The highest good service of your life.
Hi. Coming. Thank you so much to the air conditioning Davis that made that happen. Yes, so I'd like to begin with a brief meditation. Let's do 3 seconds. Okay, that was good for me. And you? The reason I suggest 3 seconds is that you can notice a luscious gap, if you will, in the habit of rumination, or the habit of thinking, usually for about 1 to 3 seconds with very little effort. This encounter with, call it reality, with emptiness, with consciousness, costs nothing. There's no effort, there's no vow, there's no purification, preparation, and perhaps the best part of all, there's no deliverable. There's no outcome. There's no future. When we take a moment to be without quality, without affliction, without agenda, without destination for this lovely 3-second interlude. No cave, no mono diet, no authority, no one or nothing higher than you, prior to you, better than you, more knowledgeable than you. That's the gift, if you will, of a simple, non-intrusive 3-second interlude of this is so, I am. Now, what seems to interfere, if I may use that word, with this absolutely relaxed, agenda-free peace of heart and peace of mind? Well, you can see perhaps from your own experience that this already present, this already prescient beatitude of emptiness gets drowned out, so it seems, by the movement of thought, the movement of time, the movement of association, of bracing, planning, mitigating, cajoling, manipulating, supplicating. You see, once mind jumps into the fray, this otherwise gift of nothing, gift of everything, starts to churn, and identity as self is lit and in motion. You might see that in our lives, if we become spiritually oriented, religiously oriented, that we're looking for remedies or interventions for the angst of self. We might go to exotic places, speak with exotic people, take exotic hallucinogens, one of my favorite, and try to medicate the angst of self, the angst of temporality, the angst of becoming. I would say, from my own experience, having traveled to various places and meeting with various persons in hopes of shaking off the burden of myself, it didn't work out too well. I thought I'd really given this the best effort, spent a good deal of money to try to work this conundrum out. And as I journeyed through this process, this, spiritual pageantry called my life, all of the temporary ameliorations or the temporary gifts or the cathartic spiritual experiences I've had, and I've had a few, and of course so have you, didn't last. Didn't do the trick, didn't result in some kind of reliable finality of the release of self, the release of apprehension. So I had to kind of rethink the strategy. You would say, suffering and failure were my best friends. Suffering and failure, best friends. How do we withdraw from the entertainment factory of the neocortex, meaning I, me, my, space-time, body, mind, to feel, to be nourished by, to rest in what's already so? If we continue to go to mind and thought and pride, purchase and presumption, we remain lost in this kind of hysteria of self, the hysteria of becoming. We may have bookshelves and walls full of spiritual accoutrements. We might have an altar, a meditation cushion, bell. But these are extroversions. And extroversions or accoutrements, icons, bless you if they're filling your life. Truly, I mean that. I'm kind of a curmudgeonly, self-sabotaging person, so none of that shit really works for me. What I've discovered, that's saying too much, is that the nature of being, though surrounded by, immersed in, effusive profusion of sensorial and mental dynamism called my life, this beatitude of being is without quality, without accoutrement. It is not the product of birth. It doesn't dwell between the bookends of birth and death. It is autonomous. It is inclusivity itself. This present moment, that's a lie, of course. We'll get there in a moment. But were there a present moment? There's never been one, there never will be one, but we don't know how to refer to the magnanimity of consciousness effusing. But were there a present moment, it is deliciously naked of self. This peace that we long for, that we seek, that we cultivate, that we give our energy and our resources to, here, it is. free from the tether and free from the abstraction of mind and name and form and association, this is. The grasping that dear friend Pat referred to looks like this, but not just with the hand, with the eyes and the ears and the tongue and the nose and the touch and the mind, right? The accumulation of being in your beautiful, majestic life through grasping has a certain kind of dissatisfaction. I don't mean to accuse you of it. Speaking for myself, in my humble opinion, if I were capable of humility, I would say, in my humble opinion, it's not working. It's just not working. In my gargantuan egoic opinion, I am GEO. This is without quality. In all the yogic schools, whether they're Jain, Hindu, Buddhist, shamanic, Tibetan, Native American, Judeo-Christian, there's the encouragement of withdrawal. We go on retreat. If we're in a military confrontation and we're losing, retreat's a good idea. If we're in a busy type A workaholism, stress with the kids, stress with the spouse, stress with the money, stress with the goddamn car, we might go on retreat. How often in a day do we take advantage, if you will, of the gift of going on retreat? Usually we make an appointment to Mexico, a cruise, a yoga thing, a meditation thing, a shamanic thing, and these are, of course, lovely. I've been on many, thrown out of many. But the retreat that we're really looking for is not the one that we make an appointment for. It's not the one that requires we set up our altar and our candle and our incense and our Shruti box so that we can groove on some kind of spiritual thing. The retreat we're really looking for, in my gigantic egoic opinion, is this. Here. Now. And we're in luck, because you might notice you've never been without here and now. I would argue, not a moment in your life have you been without the primacy of your own wormhole into ascension, into the sacred, which happens to be here and now. You're done. You're good. Good to roll. But you see, during the day, usually we're occupied by planning, we're occupied by regret, we're occupied by bracing, apprehension, fear. We're in a low-grade panic nearly 24/7. I'm not accusing anyone, I'm just soliciting interest. Even though being on retreat is always present, somehow we find ourselves in abstraction, in the burden of self, in the apprehension that accompanies the burden of self. How much time do you need to meditate? 3 seconds is good. And how many opportunities in a day do we have for a luscious encounter with the sacred? Well, I don't know, 24 hours divided by minutes, seconds, times 3 or something gives us a lot of opportunity to be on retreat. even in the midst of the busyness, the chaos, and the love of our daily lives. Here and now, let's unravel that fallacy. If your eyes are open or perhaps closed, your choice. Where are you? Not Pebble Hill, not Doylestown, not Bucks County, not Pennsylvania, not North America, not even Earth. All of those are concepts. They're ideas. They're the consequence of the accusation or assertion of name and form. Isn't here absolutely autonomous of longitude and latitude? Here is not the place. This here is irrefutable. You don't have to go to memory, a notebook, your faith, your religion, your belief, your superstition to know without delay that you are here. Similarly, what time is it? If you don't go to the clock, the sextant, the sundial, the mind, what time is it? Well, now, you idiot, speaking of myself, it's now. How long does now last? What would you give it? A nanosecond? Something less than that? Without mind, without naming, without appointment, without the presumption that you're in a place, what the hell is this? I'll give you a hint. Again, from my gigantic ego. Your present experience, if I can be so bold, is one of euphoric disembodiment. Or, if you like, disembodied euphoria. You are not in a place. You are not tethered to time. The pristine nature, your pristine nature of being is not corseted by space or time. You know that you're here, that you're now, with no reference to memory, with no reference to thought, with no ideation at all. Here and now, for lack of a better word, because we don't know what else to call it. Coca-Cola might be nice, a cool Coca-Cola on a hot day. Here and now is a little shorter than a cool Coca-Cola on a hot day. But you might sense that without the movement of mind, the movement of association, the movement of planning, the movement of past, the movement of hysterical abstraction, of hypotheticalism, this, you, I, we, here, now, the Indians say bas, which is enough. What effort must we make to enjoy, luxuriate even, in, as, here, now? Not a pinky's worth. Here, now. Boss. Isn't it curious that we might refer to this moment, now this one, 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 as the present moment. But before you even finish saying the word moment, you're 10,000 years ago. What we call time as a persistence or as an elapsing is an idea. And the so-called present moment has no duration at all. It's a streaming, it's a weird continuity of no continuity at all. Because here now is not bound by space and is not bound by time. This is so. You could say that the refresh rate of consciousness, of experience, of the lusciousness of living is ongoing. Refresh, refresh, refresh. This moment never happened before. This moment's never going to happen again. It's a total, complete, entire refresh of what? Here and now. And how quickly does it evaporate? Whoa! Presence is refreshing and evaporating concomitantly, simultaneously. You don't actually occupy. You can't actually occupy the present moment because there is none. Your being is pristine, irrefutable, luscious beyond imagination. Every moment is a wormhole to everything we might wish for ourselves or the universe at large. This. Streaming, taking no prisoners, leaving nothing behind, refreshing as an entirety of consciousness and conscious contact. And evaporating at the same, you could say, immeasurable reflection as it is refreshing. It has no grasping. Being has no grasping. It's not possible for being to grasp. What grasps is this guy, the prideful minder. That does the grasping, the naming, and the form, the agenda, the accusation, even, I dare say, the hope for world peace, not that it's a bad idea, is a form of grasping. We think we're human. Mistake! You are of the nature of a profusion, of a majesty, of an insoluble, irrefutable, disembodied euphoria, because space, time have no actuality, no stamp. Where is the love? You might ask. I would say, where's that goddamn love? Well, how's this? If love were not a product of or tethered to sentiment, to emotivity, to what the Buddhists might refer to as compassion, incorrectly, we might talk about that. You see, if you don't bring human emotivity, human sentimentality, right, as an assertion, as an overlay of this freaking bliss field, this is the love. The nourishment that we so wonderfully crave is this. as we, let's say, discover the gift of being naked of thought, naked of association, relaxed from the presumption of past and the hopeful or bracing fulfillment of future, here's the love. Sometimes we like to play around with actual as contrasted with virtual. Bear with me. You're doing great. This here now, actual, irrefutable. No evidence except all the evidence. Actual. So, I would suggest, I might presume, no one in the audience, in our sacred, wonderful, nourishing celebration sanctuary, has a problem with the irrefutability of this being actual, alive, accounted for. So now let me ask you, not each and every one of you, hypothetically, because it might take a long time to go through the audience, how did you get here? Do you know how you got here? Of course you do. And how would you communicate to me or to each other how you got here? I'll tell you how. You have to go to memory. You have to recount the events, the chronology, the movement of how you got to here and now. That's virtual. Here now, no problem, no quarrel. Johnny on the spot. How you got here? Total bullshit. Now, that's a fun little exercise, but here's where it gets really troublesome and perhaps really sad. We live, usually, not to accuse anyone in this room, of dwelling in total bullshit, because we are ruminating and reflecting and interfacing through memory, through virtual, not actual. Our suffering is never actual. Big statement. I'll go. Our suffering is always virtual. You want reality? Sure, why not? What do they say? Reality's a magazine? How much? I don't know that little joke. I forget it. Sorry about the joke. Yeah, I got another joke. Genie walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, this isn't BYOB." It's the worst joke I've ever heard. It's bad. I love that joke. Yeah, where were we? Don't know. Wood? Ah, yes. Joy is actual. Joy of being, actual. Sorrow? Sorrow appears in present experience, no question. All emotion, all thought, all interface appears in as present experience, actual. Rumination is virtual, fake, false, abstract. What does the night sky song do? What's the point? Wish I knew. When we loiter, like this delicious gathering, And we articulate these invitations, if you will. Presence, actual, effortless. That becomes a conversational, dynamic, unscripted revelation. You could say it's kind of an open-eyed, if not confrontational, in a good way, in a loving way, meditation. It's not guided. This here and now don't need any guidance. We don't need to waft philosophic or seek knowledge from anyone or anything other than here now. We loiter in this presence. And you'll notice that mind comes up with the stories and anecdotes and what-ifs and hypotheticals, and sometimes we get hysterical, and there might be regret, and there might be explanation, and there might be justification, and mind does this, and it does it well. Does it well. There's no quarrel with the movement of mind. We don't need to repress, suppress, or even clear mind. A horse is happiest in a very, very large field where the fence can't even be seen. So is mind. If you start quarreling with mind, rethinking mind, accusing mind, that's a really tight corral. Mind will not be happy. There's no need to quarrel with mind, negotiate with mind, justify mind, beat mind. Just give it a big, big fence. As a matter of fact, take the fence down and let it run away. Who needs the goddamn thing anyway? More hay for me. So the challenge, as the East moves, drifts, inhabits the West, we don't need to espouse loyalty to gods, to goddesses, to the founders of the great and semi-great religions. We don't need to supplicate the divine as being anything, anyone other than our present experience. So that split that occurs in so many organized religions, the sin, the blame, the shame, the accusation, the incredible conflict that occurs. You could say, and this way of being together is relaxed from the implication of all beliefs, is relaxed from the implication of all superstition, is relaxed from the implication of all faith. Because here, now, does not require that. I'm not suggesting you should hand your membership card back to the cardinal of your choice. We're introducing a luscious movement of the profundity of contemplative culture, going back 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years, whatever a year is, I don't know. We're looking at a way of infusing the profundity of contemplative culture into the West, where belief and superstition and religiosity and authorities elsewhere need not apply. Rather than joining a meditation culture on your cushion with your eyes closed, we cultivate a meditation culture of open-eyed, present, conversational, texture, feeling, luxuriating in presence. This is autonomy. This is compassion. This is love. This is elasticity, availability, humor, deep seeing, deep feeling, sensing the transmutation of consciousness, the transmutation of texture, the transmutation of all that's appearing, with no grasping, no quarrel, no naming. That it's so turns out to be more than enough. Your attention, your kindness, your presence. That's the food. No accoutrement is necessary other than your here, your now. And we don't know what here or now mean. Larry, is there time for questions if there are any?
Yes, there is.
Thank you. I don't have any answers. I don't know anything. I don't have any credentials. I haven't accomplished anything. I've been thrown out of most places. If you have a question, think of it as a portal into more luscious investigation, not as something that I could possibly answer. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jeff, for setting the stage for all this. One thing I noticed as you're sharing, as you're putting forth all of this, opening up space, that there's a lot I see as a paradox. It's present, it's not present. And every I don't want to say everything, but many things that you share before contain the opposite. What an observation. Can you reflect on that? Do you want me to reflect on that?
The question was about the paradox, that some of the meandering barking noises I was making seemed to suggest or infer a certain kind of paradox. Good catch. If true had to be the opposite of what's not true, is it still true? If true is an assertion of something, anything that we insist is so, at the exclusion of its opposite, is it still true, or am I kidding myself? So true, were there true, reality, if we could find it, might have a quality of absolute inclusivity. And absolute inclusivity in this mad effing world is loaded with paradox. Terrific. Your present experience is profoundly paradoxical. Nothing at all, full to the brim. No quality can be found, 1,000 moods. Perhaps as we get accustomed to the effulgence, to the joy, to the chaos in the midway of paradox, we rest with more elasticity, with less intention. Because this, you may have noticed, is doing itself. And our suffering is when we insist on individuation and willful control over self or other. We say, hey, I got this. And you know what it's saying? No, you don't. I got this. Free could be, you win. You win. I'll chill. And still cope skillfully, artfully, humorously with all the paradigms. You. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Not so much a question, but a reflection. And I thank you, because as I was raised, then I was taught non-resistance. I was taught that was very different from non-violence. Non-violence was an attempt to force others. We don't believe in non-violence, we believe in non-resistance. And just, I don't think I ever got it. But the reflection this morning, I thought, oh, I think I finally got what my father was trying to teach me.
I have assisted you with your Mennonite faith. That was not predictable. I didn't realize this was a Mennonite meeting. Okay.
No, it was just fascinating.
Yeah.
Because we resist.
Yep.
We hurt ourselves, we hurt others.
Yes.
We get nowhere. Give the other one.
Yes, and the presence of resistance or chill is not volitional. We're not in charge from moment to moment of whether we're going with the flow in an agreeable, in a nourished, in a fearless manner, or whether we're digging in really hard and suffering really bad. Hey, this is doing it, and I'm not sure who or what I'm pointing to. We could say, as this profundity of consciousness, this luscious here and this luscious now, as you organically simply withdraws from the presumption and the accusation of name form. It's all good. I don't mean that we drop the vitality of our social resistance to unfairness. We can still protect those that need protecting. We can act constructively in the political arena, in the spiritual arena, in the family arena, in the church arena. But underneath our activity, according to our nature, which none of us signed up for, we can, you could say, relax with the greater confidence that this has your back. Dare I say, even though There's a certain amount of utility for the human travail of living as we relax, as we non-quarrel. What we're also speaking about, I was going to say really speaking about, but that's too presumptuous. What we're also speaking about is this shit is transhuman, baby. This is not really about, though it can be about, you having a good hair day. This is about the recognition of your already transcendent nature. There's no quarrel with the beauty of our humanity. But why not have it all? Time for one more, if there's one more. Oops.
I got a lesson recently, just a few days ago, about resistance.
Yes.
I was body surfing down some rapids, and I got in trouble because I was fighting it. And I found out later, in many ways, that what I needed to do was just let it take me.
I'm glad you're here. Rapids can kick your ass. Bill.
Yesterday, I was in a mall, and I went to the restroom, and the women's restroom, there was a woman who had 2 children, and she was yelling at them and striking her son. My wife went into the women's room and stood there, and she stopped striking her son because my wife was there and needed to get past to use the toilets. She continued to yell at her children, and I emerged from the men's room and stood outside, and I began, I thought that I would assume the role of a disembodied authority on the other side of the door, and I said, "There will be no shouting in the mall!"
I want to stop where you are.
But this had little to no effect. She came out of the restroom, and her children were with her, and they were staring at me, and the woman was telling me that I had no business to get in her business. So I looked at the children and I said, "It won't always be this bad." But the woman kept shouting and shouting at me and her children, and I left the scene with Bonnie, and I wondered what I could have done. I was confused and upset, particularly I'm running stories about what's going to happen to those kids, and will be interceding, as I thought, on their behalf make things worse for them.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Maybe we could say the most luscious aspect of compassion is the uncertainty. is the sorrow. We might think that an act as a Prince of Peace would be useful to those that are being mistreated. We can't know the plan, the consequences, the weather, but we respond spontaneously from our own heart space as best we can in whatever experience we might be having. You know, in the Hindu faith, karma yoga says, be a Prince of Peace, but don't attach to the results. When Arjuna was driving the chariot with Krishna, who was acting in disguise as his charioteer, Krishna's instruction to him was, you have to go out and fight, the big battle, even though there were cousins and uncles on the other side of the melee. And the lesson in it from the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm no scholar of anything, thank goodness, was this karma, this act, is not of thy will, my will, it's of thy will. That doesn't mean we're released from sorrow or empathy or pathos or the wondering of, was that the best thing to do? Welcome to Earth. You know, it's a cluster here, and it's filled with transcendence, dripping with transcendence. Beautiful story. Thank you.
Thank you.
This in the closing song is a chant today. We tell the friends of the program and the closing song. Let's stand up and get your going.